Here's how I would describe today's movie. Light, fun, goofy, thrilling, and just really creative. It's not your typical type of spy thriller that you've seen before. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. This movie was made in the early 90s. Everything about this movie, from the technology to the types of things they joke about and they talk about, it all feels a little bit dated, but it still doesn't ruin this movie at all from being fantastic. The movie we're talking about today, Sneakers. Let's talk for a minute. All right, and let's start off with the rating for this movie. This classic comes in with a very strong and very well-deserved 9 out of 10. And for the pros section, there's quite a bit to talk about, so let's start. The cast. This movie has one of the greatest collection of all-star cast members ever. Running down the list, we have Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, David Strathairn, Mary McDonnell, Dan Aykroyd, the late River Phoenix, Ben Kingsley, Donald Logue, Stephen Tobolowsky, and there are a few cameos which are also really great in this movie. It's just incredible. I also want to point out one thing with the cast here. There's an actress named Lee Garlington in this movie. She plays the very dated role of Dr. Elena Rizkov. And then again, the same director of this movie, Phil Alden Robinson, casted her again in the excellent 2002 Jack Ryan movie, The Sum of All Fears. She has a very different character there. And I just want to say that I just think it's really interesting to see her transition from this movie to what she played in the movie, The Sum of All Fears. That is another movie, again, by the same director, Phil Alden Robinson, who directed this movie. It is an excellent film if you enjoy the Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy type of action movies, and I love those. Speaking of the director, Phil Alden Robinson, can we talk about him for a minute? Most recently, he produced a spin-off series of The Good Wife called The Good Fight, and that was an excellent show. But even before that, he was also known for directing, I already mentioned the 2002 Jack Ryan movie, The Sum of All Fears, but probably the one he is known best for is the Kevin Costner film, Field of Dreams. He's also the writer of the movie Fletch, so you know that he has humor as part of his storytelling skills, but he also likes to include drama, as we've seen with Field of Dreams, Sum of All Fears, and in this movie Sneakers, it's definitely an infusion of the comedy and drama. It works out really well. We also have to talk about the writers for this movie. Phil Alden Robinson was one of 3 writers for this movie. The other 2, interestingly enough, are Lawrence Lasker and Walter Parks. And these 2 guys were the writers of the movie War Games. Now, when you watch this movie, kind of the lightheartedness, a little bit of the cheesy and corniness, you can feel how it's very similar to that of War Games. But again, it doesn't ruin the movie, and it adds kind of a charm to the film, really. The movie is beautifully shot by cinematographer John Ridley. He is the same guy who shot the movie Pleasantville. And the editing in this movie also has a great pacing to it, which really makes this a great spy thriller. The editing in this movie was done by editor Tom Rolfe. Tom Rolfe was known for editing movies like War Games, The Right Stuff, and Taxi Driver. But now we're at a part that you know I love to talk about, and that's the composer. The composer for Sneakers was the late James Horner. This soundtrack is one of my all-time favorite movie soundtracks. It has feel-good moments, it has thrilling moments, and it's a classic. I would put this score up there with work like that by Bill Conti with the Rocky franchise and anything by John Williams. It should also be noted that this is just one of many classic soundtracks that James Horner has created. I'm going to read a list here, and this is, by the way, not a complete list. I am skipping a lot here, and here we go. Avatar, Titanic, The Magnificent Seven, the 2016 remake, Apocalypto, The Mask of Zorro, Troy, A Beautiful Mind, The Perfect Storm, Ransom, Courage Under Fire, Apollo 13, Braveheart, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, Field of Dreams, Glory, Aliens. It's absolutely unreal. He was a wonderful composer, and he created so many classical musical moments in movies just like the one in this movie, Sneakers. And there's a point that I'm trying to make by sharing the names of all the people that were part of making this movie come to life. They're all very talented people, but having talented people on your cast and crew doesn't guarantee a movie will be good. We've seen that happen where a movie's made with one group, it's really great, and then they do another one together and it falls apart. What I am saying with this movie is that Sneakers was one of those movies where everyone shined in this movie. Everyone shined. I'm actually surprised that this movie isn't talked about more today, especially considering that, this movie was successful when it came out. It earned a $105 million box office on a $23 million budget. I mean, then again, this is before the day of the $200 million budget insanity movies that we have now. Up to this point, you've only been hearing me sing the praises of this movie, and yet I give it a 9 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10. Why? Well, now we get to the cons, and I just have one con with this movie, one thing that I gotta knock it for. It's a small detail, but it's an important one. The title. Sneakers? Really? All right, to whatever executive that overrode the decision of the writers, the director, the actors who probably had some other ideas, all I have to say to you is right to jail, right away. It's a terrible title. I want to say this. I'm definitely of the mindset that if I'm going to criticize something like this, it's not okay to just criticize without having some idea, some kind of a suggestion, try to bring a solution. Don't just be part of the problem. I have one idea for a title that would have worked a lot better. And you know what? It's actually not my idea. It was in the movie. Another title that would have worked so much better for a movie like this is Too Many Secrets. It is a line of dialogue in the movie. It's just 3 words. It's mysterious. It's intriguing. It's catchy. And it's in the material already. But sneakers. We're going to go with sneakers. No, right to jail. That being said, it is still very much at least a 9 out of 10. Again, this movie is a very old school type of spy movie. It's light. Yes, it does feel dated, like I said before, but it's still really enjoyable. There's a lot of charm to this movie, and there's kind of like a mischievous feel to this movie too amongst these friends that are working together. Sidney Poitier has a wonderful line that I feel like encapsulates that feeling in this movie. There's a task that Redford and Poitier and the team have to work on. It's going to be an incredibly difficult task, and Redford is the one that they decide is going to have to do it. And Poitier, in a kind of teasing way, just says to him, "You get all the fun stuff." And just, shakes his head. It's really funny and just stupid, but I love it. And nobody can pull it off like Poitier. That guy is still the man. Sneakers is available to rent and buy everywhere you get your movies. It is one of those movies that is a favorite of mine, and anytime I see it somewhere, I have to watch a little bit, if not all of it, and I wanted to be sure to share it with you all today. Please do check it out. Let me know what you think, and thank you for listening.